This is Truth TOK. We are truth-oriented knights out for the promotion of meaningful discussions to foster democracy. At Truth TOK, we believe the false argument supersedes the argument of force. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, fellow viewers across the world. This is again your favorite show, Truth TOK, your destination for meaningful discussions to promote democracy, first starting from our region in Southern Cameroons and then expanding across the territory and maybe Africa. On today's episode of the show, Truth TOK, we are going to be talking about the case which has been filed against President Paul Biya of Cameroon and the state of Cameroon at the ICC. And we are also going to be talking about, we are also going to be debating the solution to the crisis we are experiencing on the ground today. Some people think that federation is the option. Some people think that complete separation is the option. We're going to be looking at these two in particular. I mean, there might be others. We probably should come to that, but we'll be looking at these two in particular, and we'll be debating these issues. And we'll also be looking at public statements by public figures, or a public statement by a public figure. As you know, this is one of the parts we always have on our show. We get to explore some of these talking points, some of these public statements made by these individuals. Without very much ado, without much waste of your time, a case has been filed against President Paul Biya of Cameroon, who is the leader of the armed force, against for crimes, for human rights violations, crimes against humanity, and a lot more. And this case was filed at the ICC by Dr. David Masanga. Dr. David Masanga is not of Southern Cameroons nor of La République du Cameroun. He is a citizen of Uganda. He is based in the United Kingdom, and he is a household name when we talk about law. And if I should take a minute to read his profile, Dr. David Masanga is a political scientist and international relations expert, conflict resolution expert, political risk strategist, Pan-Africanist, media owner, and investigative an investigative journalist. So he is the founder of the Pan-African Forum, a law body, and he filed this case against Paul Biya and the state of Cameroon. So we are going to be debating these issues. If you very much know, we had talked about the ICC and its involvement in other zones and its selective justice, as we have put it in some way. And my co-panelist, Kwakwa, has always said that the international body is kind of dormant when it comes to situations where, or to countries or to regions where they do not have their benefits, and we have always been critical of these institutions. So Kwakwa, what do you make of this case, and should we still lean to the fact that these organizations are, say, toothless bulldogs, or these organizations do not serve the interest of people when they do not have their interests met, and we shouldn't expect anything from this filing against the president of La République du Cameroon?
Oh, thank you for this opportunity once more. Well, I would think the organizations is a bit complex, right? These organizations were set up for a particular purpose. That those who are working in these organizations, like the ICC, the judges there, will be out for justice in this kind of situation. but then they don't really have that authority, internationally speaking, to enforce certain things that will pass there. So this complaint that has been made to the ICC is a good complaint. Firstly, because it is not a Cameroonian who made that complaint. So to say this person from his background has nothing to benefit directly from that complaint that he made. So if he's doing it, it means there's something concrete or credible that he has seen after studies and research, and probably talking to persons, going to the field, or sending persons to the field, or making investigations to see that okay, it is warranted and it is necessary before making it. Now the question now is the significant question is the reaction to that complaint. What can be done by these organizations? Because making that complaint is one thing, having an action in relation to that complaint is something else.
So, Sangabo, what's your take on this filing? And do you think that any fruits would come from this? Will we reap any fruits from this, or is one of those things that comes to the media, and then we think that things are going north, and meanwhile they are just stagnant, and maybe would even go south?
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I want to think like my colleague, if comrade there, if somebody is from outside and is filing a complaint, it seems a lot. It makes a lot of noise because, like he said, he is not directly or somehow benefiting from this. He is just a neutral person trying to portray, to show something to the international community that is happening in a place where they have turned a blind eye. But then, is there anything that is going to happen? My colleague is saying no. I think yes. Why? Because this is the step. We don't expect these people to act on nothing. So I think that this is the opportunity for them to look at this and say, even if we were not seeing this, if somebody is bringing it up, then it's the right time or it's high time we look at this, we try to resolve it, we try to trash it, and then maybe something is going to happen. Let's just keep our eyes open, our ears open to the call by Masinga.
Yeah. So we had him elaborate, or we had him explain this filing, or this case which has been filed at the ICC on Mimi Mefo's show. A lot of our viewers would be versed with the name Mimi Mefo. She's a household name when it comes to the media and people who have been reporting on the issues concerning this region for as long as the crisis has been. So in his interview, I would call on individuals to go and watch the interview. It's a very interesting one. You would have maybe some of your questions answered there, and you'll have an insight of the guy himself, and what we should expect from this filing. I don't take it lightly from the interview I've watched with him, and I like to just play a little clip of uh, what he said, and have us relate this with what we had or that I had said on some of our previous on one of our previous episodes.
Before Trump left, he was going to put a no-fly zone on this guy here of yours. We were going to hammer a no-fly zone on that part of Southern Cameroon. But Trump left. Now he has come back. That is why, strategically, my sister, I have gone in at the right time. If Mr. Abdulkarim Khan goes around issuing warrants to Russia, issuing warrants to Netanyahu, and you cannot issue warrants to a man who's presiding over killings in Southern Cameroon, where we know women like you have been brutalized. People have misunderstood you.
So this is a question we had, or I had personally had asked on one of our previous episodes, and let's see that same question play out here.
if the Norway through the ICC has called for the arrest of Benjamin Netanyahu, then we are also calling on Norway through the ICC to call for the arrest of President Paul Biya of La République du Cameroon, who called for a war, or who declared war on the people of Southern Cameroons.
The ICC is going for people like Benjamin Netanyahu and going for other people who are committing human rights violations, as they claim, but are letting President Paul Biya parade the streets of all these nations. That's very much unfair, and that has been my take, and that has been the take of a whole lot of people, and that's why I think, from my own personal perspective, that this this complaint filed by Dr. David Masenga just comes in time to answer this question, or to put forth our case in the international scene. It's been in the international scene to some extent, but it has not been internationalized enough. But then, like Kwakwa is saying, we shouldn't be expecting so much from this. However, if we are looking at, say, the ICC is going to be biased, we can't say that for all the courts they are going to be biased in the same manner. Dr. David Masenga has gone ahead and issued, or has gone ahead and sued or filed several complaints at the level of the European Union Court for Human Rights, and has gone ahead and filed another case calling for the Commonwealth to suspend Cameroon from this organization. So that's to say that he is not putting all his eggs in one basket. He is diversifying his mode of operation, so much such that if one of them shouldn't go through, the other definitely should go through. And he is also indicted Norway, because Norway has arrested one of the prominent leaders in the revolution, Dr. Cho Ayaba Lucas, and is still holding him in an unjust manner, because he has been refused bail. His crimes have not been read to him. The crimes have not been investigated, as they say, and so they are holding him against their own laws. So all of these things which have been filed, or all of these cases which have been filed against Cameroon, against President Paul Biya, against Norway, and even challenging Patricia Scotland, who is the head of the Commonwealth, definitely seems that like some fruits will come from here. Kwakwa, are you still disagreeing on this?
Yes, I think my stance doesn't change about this whole issue. To me, it's just a vicious cycle, right? The question is, when you say crimes against humanity, are you limiting it to the Anglophone crisis or to Cameroon in general? Then, what about those separatists who have committed crimes against humanity as well? Because it's not just like the government and the military that is the sole perpetrator of this whole humanitarian or atrocious act. I think the boys themselves are also doing things that are despicable, like I mentioned at the close of the last debate, that we just can't blame the government alone. So, to me,
I'm not trying to stop you. I'm just saying that the government is an organized force that is supposed to fight professionally. You cannot be comparing the government or comparing these two situations. These are rebels, and they do rebel things.
No,
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that what they have done
that's
is
true. That's true because
I'm not saying that what they have done is correct, but
according to Amazonian Defense Forces, so they
to add to Ngabu's point, Cameroon has ratified international treaty. They are signatories to conventions. The rebels are not signatories to any convention, any international treaty. So they are not bound. They are not bound by some treaty to act in a professional manner. The state of Cameroon has a responsibility to act professional in all situations because they are signatories. Yes.
So if you're going by this logic, right? The government of Cameroon has every right to treat the separatists as terrorists, right? And as an insurgent group that is disturbing the peace of the nation. Going by that logic. So they have no legitimate claim to fight or whatsoever, since if you want to go by international law ratified by Cameroon. So you have a conventional way of combat in war, right? So it's okay, you have to act and behave like this and tolerate them acting like that as rebels because they have not ratified this law. It means they're terrorists, and as such, the government should treat them like terrorists, not like a legitimate force or ambassador defense forces.
But the government has been treating them like that. It's not
exactly. That's how the government has been treating them, and that's not how the government has been treating just the forces. The government has been treating the entire people of Southern Cameroons as terrorists because we have ordinary civilians who have been massacred in the most horrendous way, in the most brutal of ways. These are the terrorists the government are fighting.
Can I say something? Now, this is the argument. The so-called Ambazonian Defense Forces have committed atrocious acts. Now, the argument people are bringing here is that, okay, they are rebels. What they have done is okay. And they have a certain decorum of...
We are not saying that is okay. You did not understand us. We are...
The government of Cameroon, the military of Cameroon is professional and has to act in a professional way. So that excuses the actions of those who are not supposed to act in a professional way. The so-called Ambazonian forces. So the atrocities committed is okay because they are not professional. And that committed
you'll have to understand that the ICC has prosecuted rebel leaders. The ICC has prosecuted rebel leaders. So if they have their investigations and they have the facts down there to show that this rebel leader is responsible for this and is responsible for that, then the ICC goes ahead to prosecute these people by law. Now, some of the crimes that are said are being committed. For example, we take the case of Dr. Cho Ayaba Lucas. What crime has he committed? He's a German citizen. He's resident in Norway because it's part of the EU. But what crimes has he committed? The separatists on the ground have committed some crimes, but is it in his name? If you can prove in the court that it's in his name, he gave these people guns, he pulled the trigger, he did this, then he can be prosecuted in the court, and he can be the court case can go ahead and even to jailing him. It happens in the international space in that form. But then we know for a fact that Paul Biya is the leader of the armed force, and we know what the police has done on the ground. We know what the military people have done on the ground. That's why Dr. David Matsinga, and in his statement, said, you go for the big fish. In a situation like this, you go for the big fish. He is the leader of the armed force. We have on tape, we have on record the crimes committed by his forces. That's why he's going against President Paul Biya and the state of Cameroon.
Nobody has argued that. Nobody is saying that the government of Cameroon or the president of Cameroon, who is commander-in-chief of the armed forces and through the military, has not committed atrocious acts. Nobody is arguing that, right? But when we try to exonerate the so-called Ambazonian Defense Forces for their own acts and crimes,
nobody's giving them an exoneration.
You're just saying that
exoneration. We are just saying that.
No, I've not said he has not done anything. I've said investigation has to be done, just like Dr. David Matsinga has said in his outing.
Has he not written? Has he not made videos and outings? He's speaking and telling people that go and do like this and do like that. Has he not done that?
Well, that's what we're saying. So the investigation has to be done. The due process has to be done to bring this person to book. But then to say that because he has President Paul Biya is going against terrorists or whatever, and that's why he's not in any court in the or he has not been prosecuted. I think it's unreasonable. It's outrageous.
No, it's not. It's not unreasonable. This is it. Cameroon is an international. Is an agent in the international system, right? Is an individual in the international system. So to say, it's a state, right? Now, you cannot a legal entity that is independent, that, as you have said, has ratified international law, and you are talking about a body, an insurgency group that has not been ratified by international law. It's not known. The so-called Ambazonian territory is a thing. Like I said, it's a technicality. There is, internationally speaking, there is no entity like Ambazonia. So when you come to the national territory of Cameroon and there is a conflict like this, the first right of the government is to ensure that its territory and its sovereignty is maintained and defended. So they will brand these persons as terrorists and they will deal with them as terrorists. That's the point. So how do you solve this particular issue?
We know for a fact that rebels operate not just in Cameroon, not just in Africa. Rebels operate in the entire world. Rebels are very much recognized. Rebels have toppled governments and have become governments after the toppling. This is not going to be a singular case. This is going to just be one of those cases in the world where rebels as well are operating and have rights to operate. Even the international law recognizes a rebellion and recognizes the right of the people to rebel.
Is it the people rebelling?
The people are rebelling. If
you go to a referendum today, every English-speaking Cameroonian from the northwest and southwest region vote.
You cannot reasonably say that.
Not every single
talking about the majority. Not everybody.
The fact that Trump is president or has been elected president does not mean that every single American voted for him.
Yeah.
Every single American, I mean, a vast number of people, a huge number of people voted against him, and we even want to see his demise. But the majority voted for him to be president. That's why he's president-elect, and he's going to be president.
Good. In that case, it's an election for office, but you cannot say, as of president, it's a revolution of the people against the government. It's not the people.
It's the people.
This crisis was
how can you say it's not the people? What justification do you have to say it is not a revolution?
It's not the people. You have to come up with justification. My justification for saying it's the people takes you down to 2016 and to 2017. We saw the rise of the people. The people rose from their crevices. The people rose from their rural areas and occupied the streets. And asked for the government to let them go. They asked for the government to act right. That's the referendum you need. If you need a referendum, you don't need any referendum.
Were the people incited to do those things, or they did it because they wanted to?
No, these people rose up and asked for this. It's not there was no incitement. You have to define incitement.
Independence, or
do you want to tell me that the people were marching at gunpoint or they were forced to march?
Exactly.
I don't
That's
understand.
the question I'm asking. Were they incited to do those things, or was it that they said, okay, we should do it?
That's rather a question I should ask you, because we know for a fact that people came out of their houses on a very good day and said, oh no, enough is enough, and we are going to take our case and we must be heard. People were not pushed to go to the streets. People rose up and said enough is enough. I remember
one man testifying to me, telling me how they were marching towards Mancon, and one grandma came with peace plant that could not even walk well. She was limping and coming, and then saw this agile young man, gave him a whole lot of peace plants, and said, "Ma pikin, una take am peaceful, yeah, una take am peaceful." Do you want to tell me that somebody forced this grandmother to leave her house, to come to the road, to give peace plan to somebody protesting. That is just an example.
Now, let's take a pause a bit, right? There's a timeline of events in this whole struggle for independence or for separation or however you want to call it. There is a timeline. 2016, it was never about independence. It was never about federalism even. The teachers, I think the lawyers, rose up making demands. There are persons who capitalized on this situation and took it to another level. We can all agree on that. It was never a march against the government for independence. It was a march for better standards for the people. In case in question, the teachers and the lawyers. But somehow, it skyrocketed to the level of people asking that we want to separate, we want to go separate ways, and still seeing flags of Amazonia and a territory, and many people who were out there, if you even ask them at that time of 2016 or 2017, that those marching out there to even talk about Amazonia, they will not tell you anything about it. True. Because the idea sprung from nowhere.
I doubt what you are saying. Yes, we didn't conduct any polls, but if a poll was conducted, if a poll is ever conducted in the anglophone zone, I believe, I know a lot of...
A poll has even been conducted by late Christian Cardinal Tumi. A poll was...
To ask anglophones whether they want to remain with French Cameroon, they want to go their separate ways. I bet you, majority of anglophones will want to be independent.
A poll was actually conducted by late Christian Cardinal Tumi, and a significant majority of people voted or indicated that separation would be the option they will go for. But then we're not talking about that. I think we have digressed a whole lot into our next point, our next talking point. But we are looking at the case filed against President Paul Biya at the ICC and seeing if this would yield any fruits. I would call on individuals to watch the interview between the AGOVC press secretary, that's the Amazonian Governing Council. She had an interview, the press secretary, she had an interview with Dr. David Masinga. It was quite an insightful interview. You get to understand a whole lot about the things and the steps he has taken and maybe the counter steps he has taken. So he has taken steps in various directions, like I earlier explained, some of such that if one shouldn't go through, then he knows how to tackle and get the other to go through, or he knows how to sue that institution for not pushing through. According to his statement, the ICC has already started investigating the crimes against humanity perpetrated by the armed forces of La République du Cameroun under the command of President Paul Biya. So, according to him, still we should be seeing results in the nearest future. We keep our fingers crossed and hoping to see a result. But then a very important question that came up is, are the courts in Africa not good enough for us to bring our cases and have our cases looked into? Why has the African Union not come out in a statement condemning the things happening in Cameroon or in La République, Southern Cameroons, and have not taken any measures 8 years down the line, and they have not taken any measures? They are not coming out in those strong public statements. They are not giving out sanctions and all that. What happens to the courts in Africa, Sir Kwakwa?
Well, there are conflicts almost. There are many conflicts in Africa. Many countries have conflicts, and I think the African Union or those agencies that can enforce that in Africa, I think to a greater extent they focus more on the humanitarian area, on how to mitigate and maybe help to solve this crisis. But then the situation in Amazonia is I think the only other place I can compare it to is in Sudan, where it has developed to a level where it's like there are two entities and one is fighting for separation. So it becomes difficult for them to really, for the courts in Africa to really have a say in this matter, because is much more territorial, and you really can't stop a people who want independence from fighting for their independence, and you really can't stop a government that is fighting to protect its sovereignty and its national territory from fighting. So how do the courts come in and make a statement that matters? At the end of the day, those who have the power.
I think the question is what gives the European nations or for example, the European nations the power over African countries. These are countries like we have countries in Africa, but rather we do not take our cases to the African Union. We take them to the European courts. We take them to the ICC. We take them to the ICJ as well. And Cameroon itself is not even a member of the ICC, if you must note that. So,
if I may, for those who have maybe are read in matters of political science, you understand that it's an unfortunate truth, but the capitalist nature of the world makes it possible for this strata of where those at the top are the deciders of the day. You see, most things in Africa can only happen in two ways. You see, like the case in Mali, in is it Burkina Faso, and I think in Chad and Niger. Those countries are able to do stuff on their own because the military has taken over power and they have cut themselves off from those European and maybe American or Western interference. For those nations who see have a political system and so-called democracy, they are influenced and controlled by the West. And so those are the persons who can make those decisions. Anybody who understands this will always turn back to the West that has the power to decide, to fight those charges and those complaints to them, because they're the ones who can look into those things. The AU is basically limited to certain matters that they can really have a say significantly. So we unfortunately have to only turn to this ICJ, ICC, the UN, and those places for them to come to these situations and provide help.
Sengabu, the African Union, we are clamoring. Some people, I mean, are Pan-Africanists and would want to see a very united Africa. But the system or the countries do not really seem to be united in any way, and the institutions that should really push forward for the uniting of Africa and should push forward for the development of Africa and for the growth of Africa, like the African Union, is seeming to be just one of those institutions where you have a ceremonial, you just have the ceremonial post and you have them organize maybe some ceremonies to go and just talk and drink good wine and have no concrete actions on the ground. What do you make of this situation?
Thank you. I'm sorry to say this, but in my view, the AU is a joke. Why? Because they take the AU, like my comrade said, they do not have anything, and they're not even interested whatsoever in doing so. They might be doing some kind of interventions, maybe concerning health coverage, other things, and discussing things like that. But I think when it comes to business, serious, it happens where the president abdicated and so on. Like the one in Cameroon, you see Prof. Lumumba spoke about it, called the AU to even intervene in one of his speeches. Nobody did anything. They gave a deaf ear and a blind eye. He spoke and said that according to him, he thinks that the African Union should dedicate some people to come to Cameroon, go to the ground, investigate and see what is going on, because he thinks that what is going on in the northwest and southwest of Cameroon is very serious. But nothing happened. Then how then are we not going to say they are a joke? And as for the fact that we tend to the West, the ICJ and the ICC for things, I think that one of the reasons is that we do not have confidence in these people like the African Union, like me. I don't even have confidence in them at all. Like I said, they are just a joke. And two, is because we are in this mess today because of the Europeans. So they caused the mess, and they should be part of cleaning the mess. I think so.
Yeah, I think that's a very smart one. They are responsible for what's happening in Africa today, and they should massively contribute in fixing the problems in Africa if Africa should grow. But I think at some point Africa has to take the lead. Africa has to, manage its own crisis, its own conflicts, and be able to maybe in some day prosecute European leaders too, because I mean African leaders are being prosecuted.
That is where every African we want to be.
So it's quite outrageous that
we want to be. It's just that
it's quite outrageous that a lot of African leaders have been charged by the European courts, but we do not have European leaders who have been charged by the African Union or the African courts. It makes absolutely no sense.
That is the system I'm talking about. The powers that be are up there. And
no, I think that you're very good. You're saying good things. We want to be there, but they say charity begins at home. So if they want to expand, or if we want to someday be able to maybe charge some African leader or some non-African leader, we should at least begin by solving our own problems, cleaning our own house before we start looking outside. Until we get to start from there, then we are going nowhere.
Okay. That point noted. For example, let's still stay on the ICC and say that the ICC has charged, or has called for the arrest of Netanyahu of Israel. That's to show in a way its fairness, like Ngabu is saying. It's a bit fair in the fact that it's not prosecuting just, say, African leaders, but it's also going for people committing crimes around the world. I mean, some people will come to the defense of President or Prime Minister Netanyahu, but that's not our talking point. We are going to let that go. If we should leave the case of the ICC, the complaint filed at the ICC, for when the case actually ripens. And let's talk a little bit about the solution on the ground today. We were already talking about the situation on the ground while talking about our first topic, the ICC complaint. But let's look a little bit more about the solution of this crisis on the ground. And if we are to table two solutions, federation, complete separation, Sekwakwa.
I will go for federation, but with certain things put in place to ensure that we don't regress to what happened after 1961. For instance,
okay,
this is my plan, right? This is my plan. I think to make a federation or federalism successful in Cameroon, we have to restructure the whole Cameroonian system. First off, I'll start with the executive, in that we will not give one person power. I will tap from other systems in the world to make an ID system. That's what I see as an ID system for Cameroon, right? Now, in a country like Switzerland, that's what they refer to as a federal executive. I think there are 7 members who form the federal executive. They are the heads of state, right? So I think in Cameroon, we can instill something like that where we have a federal executive. It can be from every region. We'll decide on that. The one person does not have power as president, but a group of persons sit as president of that nation. Then the next thing is we'll have
does it not challenge the saying that there can be no two captains in a boat? It's going to be challenging to manage a country when you have several people, because these people do not.
It works perfectly in Switzerland. There is San Marino, is a hierarchy that 2 heads of state who rule the country.
And we know how our African system is, our African, should I say African mentality?
That's the problem. That's the problem we have, right? If we want to talk about change, the only way we can talk about change is having a constitution that is implemented by the law. So to say we have the rule of law. If and the separations of power, if we cannot have that, then we cannot talk about change. the only way we can talk about change in Africa in general and Cameroon in particular is to put a law and stick to it. Have the organization or the institutions that are meant to implement this law have the power to implement the law. That's the problem we have now. Because there are people who have power, but they don't have that power to like act on those powers. So basically, most persons, like you mentioned last time, even the prime minister in Cameroon is a figurehead, honorary. He cannot do anything like prime minister, head of which government. That's just bullshit. He cannot appoint or sack anybody. So he's not head of any government. It's just paper talk. For me, I think we need to look at a system where one person does not have power. That is where the problem starts. Ahijo had the power to do alone. Nobody could challenge him. Biya has that power to do alone. Nobody can challenge him. I think we have to eradicate that kind of system first in Cameroon, that one person has the power. To me, we have a bicameral parliament or legislature. One house should be in that Yaoundé, another should be in West Cameroon, somewhere in Boyaolimbe. And like in South Africa, that's how it happens in South Africa. The three branches of government are in separate locations. One is in Pretoria, one is in Cape Town, and one is in Johannesburg. They are separated. They don't mingle anyway. I think when we talk about separation of power, it has to happen in a manner where these different branches of government are unable to impact the other. Every branch has the power, the authority to work the way the constitution wants them to work. And I think that we have still to decide if it's a 10-state federation or a 2-state federation. Those are things that we need to. But for me, I prefer a 10-state federation where every region that we have in Cameroon becomes a state independent of the other. Because I'll tell you the truth, as I don't, even within the anglophones, between the south and the northwest, they still have the issues. That if you put them together in the future, those eggs will hash and you will start seeing those things.
When you talk about that, I remember the interview I watched a few days ago of Bishop, is it Andrew Nkia, who was explaining what happened at the Grand National Dialogue, which was organized by President Paul Biya of Cameroon. He said they talked about federation, they talked about 2-state federation, and the very famous chief of Boya, was it not Boya, Dr. Endele, who is very much famous. He's of late now. He stood up and said federation cannot be a 2-state. It's impossible that the people of the Southwest merge together with the people of the Northwest to form a state in a federated Cameroon. So a 2-state federation to him is a no-go zone. And a lot of people in the room shared his idea. And he said, rather, he would have a 10-state federation. And the people of La République du Cameroon rose up and said, oh, no, you cannot be talking of a 10-state federation. We did not ask for a state. The various states or the various provinces or regions said, we do not ask for a state. Why are you forcing statehood or federation upon our various regions? We did not ask for this. And that's how the special status was birthed. So you see the trend of events that led to the birth of the special status. Is it your take now that a special status makes more sense?
Doesn't. I've not seen any difference from that special status. So for me, I think at the end of the day, we have to look at a solution that, because the truth is, even within the francophones, right, they have issues. They are just not as courageous enough, or they have not suffered like the anglophones to rise up. The Nordics have issues. The Bamilekis have issues. Those in the East have issues. But they are, even in the system, they are up on the ladder, upper in terms of the rungs on the ladder than the anglophones. So for us, we are suffering more than them. So for now, they're not really seeing the need to go all out like we have gone and ask for what they want. But even in a situation where we have a 10-state federation, it will work out for their own benefit. Because the Nordics...
What's the difference between a 10-state federation and decentralization? What would be the significant difference?
Decentralization is there's different, like I said last time with the state systems, right? You have a federal state or you have a unitary state where you delegate powers to the central government and they give you back some of those powers. So that for easy administration, they give you back some powers to the local council, the local government, and all that. But they still have the main power. They can do and they can decide stuff that affect you in ways that they want and you don't do anything about it. But when there's a situation where the states have power of their own, they can take decisions, they can act. In America, the president of America, there are things that he has as federal power and there are things that are left to the states to do. So much so that you can say do like this and the governor tells you I'm not doing it. The president will not do anything about it because the law and the constitution gives the governor of that state the right to do so. So, but in Cameroon, it's not the same. It's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, it's limited. It's limited. The things that, say, the governor of a state will do and cannot be overturned by the president, maybe through executive order or taking it to the Supreme Court and stuff like that. In a solid decentralization is still some sort of a federation. If you understand what I mean.
I understand because on paper we have decentralization in Cameroon. But
exactly. So if it should be enforced, if we should make it a solid decentralization, it's still a form of federation, though not in that term federation, but that's in context what it is. And I mean, I don't know if you see that would work for in solving the crisis or in solving the
I think a solid decentralization for me will eventually digress back to the period before 2016. I will get back to a situation where we start talking about the need again now. Why? Personally, for me, right? For me, I've always been of the opinion that when you ask, you make a demand, settle for something less than that demand on your way to gaining what you actually want. We want separation. That's what they're asking for. That would be the ideal situation for most persons. That's the view of most persons. But if you cannot get that, why not settle for that which is easily accessible to you? And then, okay, now you have a higher bargaining power.
How do you settle for a 10-state federation if further separates or further divides the people who are asking for a separation? And then how do they come together? How do they come together and ask for a separation? It wouldn't work. I don't see it being feasible.
That's why I spoke of a federal executive. The idea of a federal executive is that every state within the federation has a member of that federal council, which is the executive branch of that government. So to say, they all have veto power. So to say, if they get to a point where it becomes unfavorable to a part of that federation, they have a right to ask to leave the federation because they also have the backing. But in a situation where they don't, like I was saying, throughout 1961, all the Fumban conference did not really give West Cameroon the power that they could use as a bargaining chip against East Cameroon. So when I just started overturning things, there was nothing they could do. Cry all you want, nothing will change because they have the power to enforce what they want, but you don't have the power to stand against them. But
however, it's my take that if you give them that power to say, okay, we can exit this federation if it doesn't work for us, it will lead to more chaos on the ground. It will not give the people of Southern Cameroons their achieved goal. They will not come out from that situation as an independent state, which is what they are looking for. Maybe the Southwesterners would want to stay, the Northwesterners would want to go out, and then they say they have to pass a vote for the federal executive, as you put it, to see if they should stay or they should go. Definitely they are going to vote against them leaving and a whole lot of that. So it's going to cause more chaos. Or if you say that they give them the power that if you want to go, we can simply say we are going and we leave. It's going to have Southern Cameroons come out as a state. You want to see the West comes out as a state. The Far North comes out as a state. It just breaks down that entire region, and it makes it makes the situation more critical and more dangerous for the entire Africa. But
if I may,
your last
now
statement, and then I'll come to Ngabo.
When I say have the potential to leave, I'm not saying that leave the federation. Leave. It's just like people have been calling on senators and members of parliament from anglophone speaking Cameroon to leave the National Assembly. There have been calls on that. Now what are they doing there? They should leave there, not attend their sessions and all that, as a sign of revolt against the injustices committed against anglophones.
I don't think it will change anything. We saw them rise in protest in that same House of Parliament. The House of Parliament didn't even listen to their case.
System is a closed system. Nothing happened in that system, right?
Exactly.
My point is, the constitution of this new federation will make it so much so that you cannot maltreat one person. But if eventually it gets to that, they have the power to act out, right? Act out, and a system is put in place that, okay, either the people vote for this or you do something about the situation. But then it's not easy because there will be certain level of equality in terms of how you divide a national cake. Now they say politics or political science is the authoritative allocation of values. Those who have the power will allocate these values, and those will be the persons in the federal executive. So to say, once they meet there and there's something to be done, you want to draw the budget, your budget will come based on it. It will not be given based on favoritism. No. So to say, there will be a lot of groundwork put in place to ensure there's that equality. So it will just be an exceptional case that there is a certain level of maltreatment, marginalization, or favoritism against or for a particular group of persons in that federation.
Yeah, everybody can come up with such case and ask for a leave. But Ngabo, let's turn to you. Federation or separation? Where would you stand at?
I'll first of all,
if you want to react to
what you were saying, I cannot accept that people just sit and then have an open forum to say it's either you are doing like this or I leave. Everybody will leave, like you are saying. So that one cannot be an option at all. So what I will say, the discussion we are having today about the way to peace, to say federalism or separation. First of all, before going to this, what is actually the way to peace? The way to peace is general acceptance, reconciliation. If this general acceptability by both parties to go down on the table is not there, then we would not talk about federation or separation, because we will not go to that. For us to reach that level, there should be general acceptability on the side of the government, number one, and on the side of the separatists, number two, to sit side by side and decide on these two things. If that is done, good and fine, then we go a step forward. So where do we stand? I cannot sit here personally and decide on the fate of a group of anglophones who are fighting for their freedom. I think the best way would be to organize a poll. But in my view, I think that separation could be the best and ultimate solution to this crisis if that is attainable.
Okay. Okay, so we're talking about feasibility and saying that if that is attainable, separation will be the best option. But this is a region where division has come into place, or the devil has come into place to divide them. Like I was explaining earlier, Dr. Enderley, well-known Dr. Enderley, said there's no way, there's no future for us being together with these people from the Northwest. We are not going to accept that. We know that we have very prominent figures, the Anglophones in the system right now, who do not even think that there is an issue and who do not want to sit down to to analyze or to look at some of these issues. So a country or a separation which is being propagated or which is being pushed as the solution to a crisis where the parties are disunited. We talk about feasibility. How feasible is this?
Yeah, I wouldn't say exactly, but I would ask you one thing. How many people have you seen say the same thing? Because when we are talking here, we are talking about majority.
Yeah.
We're not talking about somebody who is sitting in Yaoundé and benefiting from the government. We are talking about somebody who is in Furawa. We are talking about somebody who is in Lebialem, somebody who is in Kwakwa or Yabasi or those places. Those are the people we are talking about here. Where do they stand? Because it is the people that the people are fighting for. It is not a single person or a political figure. No, that is not what we are talking about. We are talking about the majority. What does the majority see? If the majority goes for something, then a few people, I think that doesn't count.
Don't you see that separation would have the region of Southern Cameroons take several steps back in time before they can catch up with time? Building a state doesn't take a day, doesn't take 2 days, doesn't take 3 days or a year or 2 years, but it takes a whole while to build a state. We know that the state of Southern Cameroons wasn't given, or the option for them to vote for Southern Cameroons wasn't given because it was said that they were not viable enough to run things and to be a state and to manage themselves. They were not financially up to standard.
You know why I'm laughing? You know why I'm laughing?
Go ahead.
I am just laughing because that was 50 years ago, 60 years ago. In the 21st century, with the level of technology where we are, we should not be talking about things like this. We should be talking about more important things. If we put structures in place, we put the right people in place, I think that can be really done quickly. So I think that is not even a topic to discuss about, because at the level where technology is, we just need the right people to get the job done, and that will be done so quickly.
Great. So I have Kwakwa pushing for federation, a 10-state federation as the solution to the crisis we're experiencing, and having Gabu push for separation as the solution to the crisis we are experiencing. We are going to further debate this in our subsequent debate, the next debate, which is going to be the rematch. So let's iron our points, our facts, and bring them. But let's look at one thing before we go. Let's look at a public statement made by Abdulkarim Ali. As you know, it's a culture on this show to revisit or visit some public statements made by public figures and see how it impacts or influences the situation we have on the ground, or how it's related to what we have on the ground. It's a long letter he put out. We're going to just go through a message to the people of La République du Cameroun. We struggle for freedom, not against you. So basically, in this entire document, which it's on your screen here, he's saying that the fight which is going on in the Southern Cameroons is not a fight of the people of Southern Cameroons against the people of La République du Cameroun, but it's rather a fight for them as well. I mean, putting Southern Cameroonians first, but the fight also benefits them because they get the opportunity to have that standing, to know that, okay, this is what we have, this is what we can achieve, this is what is our due, and we should be given this. And I mean, if we should just rush through the statement, as you heard, as you head to 2025, the election year, remember that the Southern Cameroons fight against annihilation is not a battle against the people of La République du Cameroon. Rather, it's a courageous struggle for freedom against oppressive occupation and brutality, one that seeks to liberate both Southern Cameroons and the people of La République du Cameroon. The occupation of Southern Cameroon has plagued the people of La République du Cameroon into, or plunge the people of La République du Cameroon into the abysmal predicament. The struggling or the staggering 69% increase in cost over the past 8 years serves as a stark reminder of the catastrophic consequences of this futile endeavor. Billions of taxes in franc CFA are being squandered on a conflict that has brought nothing but devastation and despair. The funds that could have been invested in vital sectors such as healthcare and education and infrastructure are instead being funneled into a bottomless pit. The cruel irony is that Southern Cameroons, a region that generates over 60% of the GDP of the Cameroon construct, is being subjected to such brutal subjugation. The axis of resistance in Southern Cameroons is not against the people of La République du Cameroon, but against the ethno supremacist regime. The statement continues, but I mean that's the statement he's saying, and truth be said, the people of La République du Cameroon are suffering a whole lot, but it boggles my mind a lot that they have not risen, or they are not rising, or they are not clamoring for the crisis to come to an end, because it affects them significantly. Like he said, the amount of money which is being pumped into this region for in the name of the war and protecting national integrity and whatever, is a lot of money which could have been put into these regions and have them have better healthcare, better educational system, and I mean just pump into the economy of the country, and not have these price hikes which we are having now. Prices are up, taxes are up, and it's hurting the people of La République du Cameroon. It seems like they do not understand this. So, Kwakwa, your take, and then Sangabu, your take, and then we conclude.
Like I mentioned earlier, Cameroon in general has issues, right? Those in the north, the northeast have issues. The Bamileki have issues, as those in the west, those in the east, and can put those in the littoral region. They all have issues. The only problem is to what extent, right? And what is their willingness to come out and stand for those issues that they are having. We, the Anglophones, have been having our issues for 8 years now, right? It should have been, to an extent, an inspiration to some persons. Say, okay, these persons have risen up. They're actually a match to the government. They can actually mash up the government and hold them off for 8 years. And so, okay, it's time for us to try and do something about our own situation. But nobody seems, except the Anglophones, to be doing something. So for me, I think that they are kind of comfortable where they are, because that's the only explanation I can give myself, because I've been asking that question. Like, I had one discussion some other time with somebody here, and the person was like, first of all, they are angry against Anglophones because they rose up and are fighting for themselves alone. That to them is kind of selfish, that the whole Cameroon is suffering, and we are rising up, we Anglophones are rising up and seeing that marginalization, so that matching us and other kind of stuff, that every Cameroon is suffering. Who are you to stand up and talk all about yourself? What about the rest of Cameroon? So in a way, they are like inherently or quietly revolting against the Anglophones who are fighting for what they think is wrong. And they think that we are selfish, fighting for our own rights. And they are not doing anything against us, against those they consider as being the cause of the dilapidating circumstances in this country. So for me, I think they are not capitalizing on the situation, because it should have been an inspiration, like I've said, for them to rise up and do something about it. The North have been complaining, particularly those from the North, they have been complaining. And the president of Cameroon is so tactical that he has given them some kind of, I don't know, something to satisfy them and keep them quiet. But they still have issues that they're complaining about, but they are not acting on those things. Same thing with the Bamileki. I want to think that the Senate coming in was a strategic way for the government of Cameroon to put certain tensions at ease. And they create we have president, we have prime minister, we still have a vice president. I don't see the use of this prime minister and vice president at the same time. So to me, there's a way of satisfying people, of putting them something in their mouth to keep them quiet. So the francophones have been given that and they are quiet. So that's a problem. I think for me, I want to focus.
But I think the people of La République du Cameroun, because when we talk about the francophones being given something and they are quiet, it's the ruling class that are benefiting from this. The people of La République du Cameroun are suffering a whole lot. Like you earlier said, the people of the Bamilikes, the people of the north are suffering a whole lot in this government. And to sit back and be comfortable in that position, I find it very, very I mean, I don't seem to understand where they're coming from or what they intend to achieve. If they cannot rather use the situation we're having in Southern Cameroons to capitalize on that and to take advantage of that situation and then rise up in their numbers. Imagine the people of La République du Cameroon rise up in their numbers, like half of them, like the way the people of Southern Cameroons did. The government would have been toppled and the people installed their leaders in a right manner, people who are accountable and stuff like that. Sangabo, your take.
Okay, I'll just tell you a little story. Then from there, I'll draw a conclusion. One time I was in Yaoundé during some parliamentary elections, and a day before the election day, I was in one village in the center. The day before the election day, these campaigners, they came in with some bags of rice, some salt, some fish, and distributed to the people. And the next day, I was not interested in the voting either. And the next day, I could not vote because I was there. I was supposed to vote in Bamenda. The next day, I was going to the bush to do some work. Then everybody was singing the name RDPC, RDPC, RDPC. Some were even wearing the campaign, the party colors on the election day. So you see, because they are excited with the sachet of whiskey, the rice, the fish that was given the previous day. So they do not care about the other days, the bad roads and everything. So it is, I think it is the type of people and the kind of satisfaction or what satisfies them that matters. Because what satisfies these people, some of these people in this other side, it is not what satisfies the Anglophone. The Anglophones are interested in development. They're interested.
I think the Anglophones are kind of long-sighted.
Kind of thing. Yeah. So they are dreamers. They believe in developing the economy, bringing infrastructure, increasing GDP, and all whatnot. But all these other people, what they're interested in, if they are given sardine, if they are given bread, if they are given this, if they are given that, if they are given rice, and maybe for one day, it's enough for them to vote. So that is the difference.
I said, they never vote with that same palava sardine and rice in Anglophone Cameroon.
I mean, it does happen, but now to what extent? That's to say that if the people of Southern Cameroons have risen up in their numbers to denounce the government and to ask for better.
I know, like Kwakwa is saying, I know a time that they said some people were given 10,000 francs to go and vote for a particular party and so on. That happened also in the Northwest. I'm not saying that, I'm not disputing the fact. When we are talking about this, we're talking about majority. And even in the Northwest, when these people were given this money, they were giving them in the back doors, and those people, when they were doing it, they were even hiding because they knew that this is not the nature of the Anglophone man. Culture. This was done in the open. I was an observer outside. I was seeing everything. Even the landlord where I was living brought fish and rice to the house we prepared, and the next day he went and voted for the party.
Well, I think people do just anything to eat. Because on 20 May, people are giving 1,000 to put on RDPC and go and march. I've seen in Boya several, even within this crisis, when the interim government calls for lockdown and all those things, that people who still go out there to go and march and get those things. It's not because of any particular thing. I think even Anglophones do that. So You cannot just say it's just a matter of francophones. True, they are not rising, they are comfortable where they are. But I think even for any anglophones do those things. If you come along about the guys who will go and march, but there'll be a lockdown that will be declared and the people will go out there to march.
Of course, there will always be some people, there will always be some deviants, there will always be a few of these people. When we talk about these people, I think we're talking about the majority.
Yeah, matching and voting are two different things. But I don't want us to go to that. But we're just discussing some few things. Matching and voting are two different things. I'm talking about somebody who has been given a can of sardine to go and vote and so on.
This election you're talking about, even people voted under the same circumstances in Southwest and Northwest.
I'm accepting with you, Kwakwa, but I'm also accepting with Ngabu saying that when we talk about people and we generalize statements, it's talking about the majority of the people. It's seeming that the majority of the French people, the francophones, would take food for a day and vote, and the majority of the English people, the anglophones, would not accept a food for a day for a vote, but would rather be looking long term, would rather be looking at how do we learn how to fish, or how do we get our own fish, because we know that we own the seas. We're supposed to have a hook and a string to be able to fish, or a fishing net to be able to fish, not just give us a fish today and then expect us to be fine with you. But then let's conclude, and then we'll have a rematch of this session on our next episode. My own conclusion as an individual is saying that I've always stood for Southern Cameroons, an independent state of Southern Cameroons. I have strong standings on that. I'll give an elaborate stance on our next episode, and I might bring in some concessions to see where we are at. But then also to say that on the issue of the La République du Cameroon, the citizens and the people of Southern Cameroons, it's never been a fight between these two people. The people actually do love themselves. I have very, very good friends from La République du Cameroon, or interact with them, best of friends from the side of La République du Cameroon, and they are amazing people. But the government of La République du Cameroon is the problem. It's a very wicked government, my take, and it's a very evil government which do not want to see the people itself prosper. But then we are concluding for today, and rescheduling our next episode. So fellow viewers, it's a goodbye from us. But then before you go, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Truth TOK. Follow us on Facebook at Truth TOK, and engage with our content. Ask us challenging questions. Bring to us topics we should explore, and debate with us. And just send us a message. Give us a review, and we'll appreciate that. Give us a criticism, and we'll work on that. And also to say that we launched a call for new participants or new members, and we are waiting on individuals who are interested in building communities to join the program or to join the project, and let's see how to grow. Thank you, Sir Ngabu. Thank you, Sir Kwakwa, for being present on this session. Until next time, it's bye-bye.